everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the vlog. So in today's episode we are going to get on and do the van fit out. So this will be part one of two to get the van fitted. Part two will come on Sunday because it's the 24th. Yeah, let's crack on. Okay, welcome to Van Fit Out 101. So what we're going to do today is we're going to fit this tank. This is a window cleaning tank. It's a 500 litre tank into this vehicle, which is a Vauxhall Combo, as you've seen over the past couple of weeks if you've been following the channel. And today what we're going to be doing is some measuring up. We'll have, hopefully by the end of this video, have everything all fitted up. And there's a couple of things that you need to know. Now, I've seen a lot of window cleaner vans, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm doing this video, where the owners have just strapped the van or the tank down to the van. A lot of vans have these little pulley rings things. That is absolutely useless and really dangerous. And the reason being is that these tanks carry a lot of water. So the one that we're going to fit in this vehicle is a 500 litre tank. So 500 litres of water is 500 kilograms of weight. If you are in an accident, this thing needs to be bolted to the vehicle in a solid way. And that's what we're going to do today. And we've also got this cage. So this cage is meets a BS 6946, which is a standard for rigidity and strength. And then we're going to bolt it down using some bolts. Some 15mm bolts, which are going to go through these plates. So these plates will go under the vehicle, and that's going to give us basically some strength to stop this from ripping a hole. Because if you just have the bolt, even if you have a washer like this, with that kind of weight, it's going to rip through. So we're going to reduce the chance of that happen by fitting these spreader plates. Now, ordinarily, you probably could fit bigger plates than what these are. These are about 10-12 centimeters in length. It's a 5mm thick piece of metal. It's going to give us some strength. I'm not, and this is no way am I saying that this is the correct way of doing it. What I am saying is that this is just the way that I do it. Okay, if you get a gripper tank, they have much bigger spreader plates, but gripper tanks are also 600 kilos in weight as well, so they are bigger tanks. So anyway, we're going to go through the routine and then use this as a guide rather than a bible as to how to fit the tank. So the first thing that we need to do as well is we need to work out the gross weight of all of this. All right, this vehicle is a L1, so it has a maximum gross weight, that's the weight that you can fit in this van, of 750 kilos. Okay, that 750 kilos includes the driver as well. So it's important that you do your calcs right, and you need to work out the weight of the frame, etc. I believe all of this frame and the tank's about 30 kilos, so we automatically lose 30 kilos from that calculation. So our gross weight that we can refill this empty will be 720 kilos. So just take that into consideration when you're doing any of these calcs. Right, okay. Right, so we've got the tank now about where it's going to be, where it needs to be. Okay, we've measured underneath the vehicle. Under here we've got a cavity that we've drilled a hole through here. Okay, so that's a hole. We put this in as a pin just to hold it in place, and then from there what I've been able to do is just mark out a template. So we've got a mark there, a mark there, and we're going to drill now from this side down, and then hopefully we'll avoid the tank. The fuel tank is just underneath this area here in the middle. So from here it's about 8 centimeters this way, so we should have missed it there. From the wall we've got 34 centimeters to play with, and then here is space, so we're fine. We've missed the tank on that side, on this side. So what we'll do, we'll drill our holes and then we'll see if we've got that from underneath. If I show you underneath what it looks like, hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see the hole there. Hopefully you can see that's a screw, and then here's our tank right slap in the middle here. So our other screws, they should come out somewhere here. Let's get the light underneath there. Should come out somewhere underneath there. So that's the plan. This is always you can measure and measure twice and measure 3 times, but it is always going to be a difficult one. Plus the fact, because we have to get our spreader plates in there as well, that's where the challenge is. Let's see how we get on. We'll do our first hole, and then we'll be able to see where that leads. Right, okay, so we've just drilled all our holes. We've got one, another one over there, one down there, and one down here. No, these are not holes that I've drilled. These are this floor is a kit, and these are the pre-drilled holes that comes with the kit. So now we've got our holes drilled, we can now put the tank in place, or the base in place, and then we bolt from the bottom up. Now what I mean by that is that it's easier for me to just drop that through, but if I do that, I expose these screws here to the elements, and this will rust. So if we do it that way up, basically only the nut head is exposed to the elements, and we are going to treat this to make sure. We're going to put it with some Amorite to protect it against rusting. This will rust, we will protect this as well, but this will never rust through. It's too thick a metal. So we've also got a washer that we fit on there as well. This just eases the tightening. We don't need a washer to for here, but basically it means that when we put that through there and we tighten that up, it's going to allow us to do so easier than against this rough bit of metal. Right, okay, so this now will come through into here, and then we'll be able to base it, and then we spread it that way, okay? Or if we do it this way, basically underneath the van it's corrugated like that. So if we do it lengthways, we're not going to benefit from the van's ridge, which is going to be stronger because it's straight metal like that. Hope that makes sense. So by bracing it across, we benefit from that ridge effect underneath the vehicle. Okay, trust me, that's the way we're going to do it. Right. Now, normally you would do this job with 2 people because one person will catch the screw on this side, but I'm doing it by myself, so I will do that off camera because it'll probably take me longer to do that off camera than it will on camera. But you'll basically see the end result with the screws sticking up through the frame, and then that way we should be in a good place. Okay, so we got now all 4 bolts are in place, so we just need to tighten them up underneath now. So what we'll do is we'll put this in to hold the bolt on top like so, and then I'll get underneath the van and just giving them a quick tighten with the old windy gun. Once we do that, we can then start looking at getting the tank in place. Alright, so tank time. Here's our tank. This is a Wydale 500 litre tank with baffles in the middle, which is very important because that stops the water from making the van unstable. This tank itself weighs about 35 kilos. The cage unit that we're going to bolt this in, that itself weighs 40 kilos. So do the math, 75 kilos of your weight is already gone. So that's a 750 capacity van, means that you need to deduct 75 kilos, and that's just the dry weight of this stuff. So pretty important that you get that right. So we're going to get this in the van. There's a couple of things in here that we need to take out first. They've very kindly put the filter or the air vent for the van inside the bottom, so I've got to figure out a way of fishing that out, but we'll do that and then we'll get this bolted into place. Right, so this is the control valve. Well, basically it's just a tap. We've coated it with PTFE tape, and you only get really one chance of this, so you need to make sure that you do it right, because the last thing you want is for this to start leaking. If it leaks, you really are in trouble. So we've given it a real high amount of tape, and that should be enough to keep it in place. Here we go. So that hopefully, we'll tighten that with a spanner, but that should hopefully be good, and we can now get the tank in place. Right, I've taken the other side of that rod off because it's easier to tighten these up. But once they are fully down, that is fully down, we just tighten these up, and then the bolt on the other side will hold it in place, and we then just torque them up a little bit. Here we are. Right, that's that side. Let's go and do the other side. Here we are. That's one. That one was a little looser. Here we go. Perfect. Now, when this is in place, we'll get the other one in. So this is still moving a little bit, but that's absolutely fine, because what you find is that when you fill this with water, so there's a little bit of flex on there, and that's fine. But when it fills with water, the tank will expand, and it holds this rigid, and it doesn't go anywhere. Trust me. Right, we'll get the other one in place, and then we'll tighten that up. Right, so with the tank in place, let's go down to the little micro components that make up this system. So here we've got our tap, which obviously has our water flow, and then we have an inline filter. Now some systems, they have an IO filter that's built in, but because here we're actually getting the water pre-filtered, etc., we haven't got that, so we're going straight out into our pump. Now you need to have a filter just in case anything gets inside, any contaminants. The filter will catch that. Okay, so it comes in that way, it blows it through this vent, and then down the outside it will come in here. It then goes into the pump, so we've got a hole here and a hole there. To control that pump, we've got our plus and negative. They go to this controller here. So this controls the flow of the water. It also can control, I'll tell you what, the charging on the battery, because you have a separate battery system to power all of this, where you don't use a normal 12 volt. So here you've got your blue and brown, they connect to the black and red cable here, so brown to red and then blue to black. Then we've got our normal power, so the pump, the controller is what's powering the pump through the controller here, and then we basically run this red and black to the battery, which will sit on the other side and the front there. So we put a fuse in here. For this controller, it needs a 10 amp fuse, so we'll do that, and then that is going to be our setup. Now I'm debating where to put the pump, because the pump needs to be as low as possible, but because we're quite far back here, normally I'd mount it on the side here, but we're kind of like, as you can see, quite forward, so we can possibly mount it here and then turn this way. Yes, we can look at that as an option, but I'll work it out in a second. The only issue with that is that the cable or the tubing will have to come back on itself, and that introduces a curve, so we might as well keep it like this and then come straight in and straight out, and then see if we can mount the cable reel to the side here. I think that might be the best setup. so it's going to be quite close in terms of the tubing and stuff, but that's fine, that's absolutely fine. And the lower you have the pump, the better, because it means that when the water level goes low, the pump doesn't have to work hard bringing the water in. So for example, if we had the pump up here, then literally it's got to suck the water up and then down again, and when you have low levels, that's when it becomes a problem. And then if you run out of water and you have to then prime the system, it's a complete mare, trust me. So the lower you have the pump, the better, because you can then use a natural weight of the water to push it through, and it also means that the pump isn't working as hard, because you really don't want to run these dry, because it will burn out the motor, because it uses the water to cool the motor as well. Right, so hopefully that explains everything, because what we're going to do with the cabling is we're going to hide it behind this panel here. This controller is going to go up here to make it easy to operate, so when you open the door in the van you can turn it on and off without really having to get involved. And if I can just probably show you how this will operate in real life. So essentially this door remains shut like so, the reel is over here, and it means that we can have one door open and operate the system without having to open the other door, because normally behind here you would have something like a vacuum for gutter vac cleaning and other stuff that's hidden and out the way that you don't want exposed to deter inquisitive eyes. All right, let's now get some. We're going to get the tank, not the tank, the reel, and do a dry fit and see how we get on with that. Okay, so we've got the hose reel out. So this is a weighted hose reel, so essentially it's supposed to be nice and easy to use. So your hose here, that goes in this end here, so we'll just twist that in like that. We'll tighten that up in a second. So basically that will stay, the hose comes out of here and then goes into the pump like this, and then this basically just stays where it is. So as this spins, this nozzle here will remain still, and then in the middle we have another, here we go, this guy here. So he goes in the middle here like so, and then from there our hose goes in through this channel here into this here, bolts into this, which keeps it steady, stops it from moving, so that thus reducing the chance of leaking. And then our hose reel goes over here. Alright, and then so we'll mount him in place. So that's where we're going to mount. We've marked it out where he's going to go, and that allows this door to be shut, and then ease of operation, so you can operate it with the door like that. Alright, so that's our setup. So we'll just, I need to get some thicker hose, because the hose that goes in here is a 8mm hose, so it's a lot thinner than that. But we're just going to get some conventional garden hose, some clear hose, so we can see the water passing through. That makes it easy to bleed, and then we'll get all of this fixed into place. Right, so let's connect this system up. So this does have a flow. So on here somewhere you'll see an arrow, and it will show you the direction of flow. You see that arrow there? So essentially it's got, the water will flow this way. Alright, so we need to make sure we connect that up the right way. So that's going to connect up like that. Then our motor also has a flow, and the motor has to be mounted this way. We were going to mount it this way, but we had a good look at the manufacturer's instructions, and it says that the motor must be mounted upright. And the reason for that is that in the event that the actual water works, so this gearbox, if there's any kind of leak, if you have it on the side like this, then that water will leak into there and damage that motor, whereas here it won't. It will leak out, and then you'll be able to see it and obviously fix it, and that won't stop you from working. So we're going to mount the motor in a box that you'll see in a second, but underneath the motor also has a flow, and you can hopefully just see those arrows there, but it's showing us that it flows that way and then out that way. So we have to mount the motor like that, and then that way upright, and then it will connect into there. All right, so first thing we're going to do is connect that up, and then we'll connect the motor up into the box. Okay, so we've just attached the final hose to the pump, so now it's just a case of screwing this casing down to the ground, which we'll do here, getting as close to that as possible, and then that will be that whole assembly sorted. Hope that makes sense. Good. Okay, then I'll screw that down and then I'll show you the end result. Okay, one more little piece to do now. All our water connection is in place. This is bolted on. I know it looks crude, but hey, it's rudimental. So we just need to connect this piece now to that, and then our water loop is almost done. We then just need to reel the holes up on that. So let's do that. Okay, wiring up time. Now the kit in question comes with these Wago connectors, which I'm not a fan of Wago connectors in this environment. I love Wago connectors for doing your standard electrical work. They are very good for that. I just think in this environment they are probably a little messy, because it's just, yeah, hopefully you'll see what I mean. Anyway, so we got a brown and red wire to connect up. Here's the red wire. The red wire is going to connect to our brown. So this basically would be the old style wiring. If you're as old as me, you can remember where we had the black for neutral and then the red for live, and then your earth was always your green and yellow. And then the new world came along where your brown is your live and your blue is your neutral or your ground. No, it's not your ground, it's your neutral. Well, that's how this works. So let's just cut these cables and we'll put them into the Wago. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use standard electrical connectors that you have for your for cars. And then we're going to put this cable inside some pipe work, but for now this will do, because Wago connectors are very strong and they're easy to use. So we'll just sort that out. Doesn't take long at all, as you can see. Put that in there, and that's that sorted. And then what we'll do is we will basically put it into a sleeve so that this is out of the way. At the moment it's loose, it will be nicely out of the way. Right, next thing we need to deal with is the reel. So this is the reel that we're going to use. It's a really strong 8mm hose, yellow, so that you can see it if you're a pedestrian, at least hopefully. So what we're going to do, we're going to cut it off the bag, and then we've got our connector here. So here is where we're going to connect it up to. Obviously you can see where the water flows in out here, and then the hose will pass through the middle here. So let's do that now. And there we go. We are pretty much finished with the van. We just got to connect the battery up and get the other hose, well, get the hose wound up. If you're wondering why the hose is not wound up, that's why. Usually they stack these really well, but for some reason this one wasn't, and it's all tangled up, so I'm going to have to unwind all 80 meters of it to get it sorted. So apologies for not getting this finished. So we will finish this next week. Next week we also go replace the bumpers a bit more back on the car, back on the tools. So front and back bumper. I got a new key to code, and I'm going to show you how that's done. But in the meantime, we've got all this in place. We've got the controller in place as well, and the pump all in place. So this is pretty much how a window cleaning van is set up. But again, we'll show you the finishing products next week, or the finishing style with the pole, etc., and have a little bash before we finish the car and this project completely. All right, now for a summary. Okay, so that is it. So the van is pretty much fitted out. There's a few little bits that need to be done. I'll get that done next week. Next week we also will be back on the tools, so we need to sort out that airbag error and see what that is. I'm going to code a new key for the van, and then we'll put the front and rear bumper, and that's it, done. So join us next week. In the meantime, if you are a casual viewer, don't forget to click on the subscribe button, click on the bell notification so you're notified whenever we release a new video. Join us next Sunday, that's next Sunday, when we will release a new video. Okay, have a great one. See you in the next one.